What's up, guys? Rick from DFS On Demand here with a preview for the Tour Championship. So this is the final video of the 2017 season. We've made it. There's 30 players to go. This is where we're going to determine the Tour Champion, obviously. So only 30 players in the field. This is going to be played at East Lake, which is always the home of the Tour Championship for at least the amount of sample size that we deem necessary here. So no other courses to look at. And with only 30 players in the field, everyone making the cut, the pricing is pretty interesting. So nobody more than 11,600, but you get some really good values in the middle here. So we'll talk about plenty of these guys, but before I do that, I want to get into some of the key stats that I'm finding most important this week. And everything that you see in this video, whether it's this spreadsheet that I'm showing you right now or the interactive tools that I'll show you in a second, they're all available on dfsondemand.com. Okay, so what key stats did I choose for this week? Well, driving accuracy is a big one for me. So if you read any of the comments from past years, you'll just find out how penal being in the rough really is here. So guys who are going to hit a lot of fairways are going to be at a significant advantage against their peers. With it being a par 70, I did opt for par 4 scoring. If you look at strokes gained approach, it tends to be a little bit of a second shot course. You've seen guys like Jason Duffner have good success here. Guys who can really throw darts on their approach shots seem to have a little bit of a leg up. And then, of course, with DraftKings scoring, I'm going to go with birdie or better, and then bogey avoidance with, probably 12 under wins this thing, maybe 10, 11, 12 under. Nobody's going to run away and shoot 25 under, so avoiding bogeys is going to be integral this week. All right, so what are we going to do at the top here? I think Jordan Spieth, an absolutely fine play. He is my #1 ranked golfer, pretty significantly, by the way. So he's not in the 90s like we usually see the top golfer, but he's 6 points better than the second place golfer, another 11 ahead of the third place golfer in my ranks. So he's pretty significantly my #1 ranked golfer. It's because you can see his stats here. In the 5 categories that I have, he ranks first or second in 4 of them. So pretty significant that he's going to be your #1 golfer. So I'll have plenty of Spieth. DJ's probably the one fade here for me. And if you watch these video series, you know I'm a pretty big DJ guy. I don't have to explain to you why he's an awesome golfer. The problem I have with him is right here. Ranks 26th out of 30 in this field in driving accuracy, which is just going to be a major concern. It's just not good enough. It's really not. If you go back and you look at past years, guys who hit fairways have a significant leg up. All the interviews that these guys give come out and they tell you, like, you have to hit the fairway. Like, if you're in the rough, you're nearly dead. DJ, at the price of 11,400, just does not hit enough fairways for me, especially when we have other options. Rickie Fowler being that probably my favorite option here. So 10,900, so you get a little bit of a discount from Jordan Spieth. And Fowler is the guy that checks in, really across the board. 6th in driving accuracy, 7th in par 4 scoring, middle of the pack in strokes gained approach, but then you can see makes a ton of birdies, does not make a lot of bogeys, and he's coming off of that T2 last week at the BMW Championship where he closed with a 67. So, and that was actually kind of like a bad 67, right? Like didn't he eagle the first and then didn't do much after that? Could have been a lot better for Fowler. So feels like he's really capable of breaking out and winning the Tour Championship this week. This is a course that sets up pretty well for him. All right, this range down here, the Justin Rose, Paul Casey, Mark Leishman. Love all 3 of these guys, okay? Justin Rose, very sneaky. 3 straight top 10s, including a T2 last week at the BMW Championship. After the miscut at the PGA Championship, this guy's turned it on. The playoffs have started. He's been awesome. Let me show you This is just since the playoffs started. So this is the last 3 tournaments. This is everyone on tour. The top half of the screen is DraftKings points per average. The bottom half of the screen is most birdies made. So you'll see Justin Rose here, the 6th most DraftKings points, averaging 88 over the course of the last 3 weeks. The 3rd most birdies. So when you get into DraftKings scoring, obviously being under par is so important. Justin Rose pops up here, and you're like, whoa, like that's pretty freaking good. You know, because he's been a little quiet around the industry. And then Paul Casey, not quiet around the industry. We can't get enough of this guy. I'll be interested to see if the ownership takes a little bit of a hit. So Paul Casey has been just a DFS darling all season long. He was racking up top 10s, top 15s basically all year. Very heavily owned last week, and a little disappointing with the T33. So, listen, it's a field of 30. Everyone's going to be pretty highly owned, but I'll be interested to see how many opt for Justin Rose or Mark Leishman instead of Paul Casey, because they're kind of in that sandwich pricing. Let me show you how good Paul Casey has been this year, just to illustrate this for you a little bit more. Let's find Paul Casey. Okay, this is Paul Casey's season, literally from October. He has missed 1 cut. Now, he's not going to miss a cut this week. No one is. But here's the big thing. Averaging 73 DraftKings points. Let's find someone to compare him to. Like, oh, I don't know. How about Dustin Johnson? Averaging 74 DraftKings points. So Paul Casey, 1 point less than Dustin Johnson. Oops, I spelled his name wrong. This entire season. Jordan Spieth checks in at 81. Like, you know what? Let's actually just do it this way. We'll go back to this tour stats here, and we'll actually go full season. I don't know where Paul Casey ranks here. Here we go. Behind some of the biggest names on tour. That's pretty impressive. 73 DraftKings points. Justin Thomas averaging 74. Justin Thomas is going to be your player of the year. That's how good Paul Casey's been. Okay? Just a little bit of an illustration there for you. And then Mark Leishman, you know what the guy's done, right? He goes wire to wire for the win at the BMW. He had the lead as they made the turn on Sunday at the Dell Technologies. So this guy's just in contention every single week at $8,400. That is a really good price. A couple other guys that stand out here. Brooks Koepka closed with a pretty ridiculous 63. Anytime you get, and we've talked about this before, whether it's Koepka, Finau, like these guys who are just going to make a ton of birdies, whether they're going to post good scores or not, when you get them in no-cut events, they're really, really dangerous. So Koepka, essentially quiet for the first 3 rounds, goes out and shoots a 63 on Sunday with a bunch of birdies, finishes T12, and puts up 89 DraftKings points. Really impressive showing there. So guys that can do that are always going to be interesting in no-cut events. Okay, if you've been paying any attention at all, you know that Patrick Cantlay, in 11 starts this year, has just been outstanding. You know, gets to the final event of the playoffs in only 11 starts this year. Really, really impressive. Essentially 3 straight top 10s here in the playoffs. Hard to pass him up at $7,800. Kevin Chappell has popped up a little bit recently. So T12 last week, T6 at the Northern Trust. But where did he pop up? Let's just go back the last 3 weeks. Let's see if I can get this. All right, here's the last 3 weeks. Here's Kevin Chappell. So that's 10th. The 10th most DraftKings points and the 4th most birdies. So we talked about Justin Rose, who's essentially performing at the same level in the playoffs as Kevin Chappell is, and Kevin Chappell is $7,600 compared to Rose's $8,900. So Kevin Chappell feels like a really good play, and then that doesn't even factor in the only time he's played the Tour Championship, which was last year. He finished in a T2. So I will probably be pretty heavy on Chappell at $7,600. He might be a little chalky, but if you're looking for a pivot there, I think it's Patrick Reed. So Patrick Reed, $7,500, has not had good success at the Tour Championship. I cannot sugarcoat that. It's not been good. However, let me show you this. And I really, really believe driving accuracy is going to play a major role this week, and Patrick Reed's #1 in this field. Also helps that he plays par 4s really well. Doesn't make as many birdies as I would like. His second shot game has not been great this year, but he's really started to heat up recently. So throw out the 65 at the BMW Championship. At least he made the cut. You can see since the PGA Championship, it was T2, T20, T6, and this was a guy that had a really rough stretch in the middle of the year. Looked like he was starting to get right, and now his metrics are adding up. Where, listen, would you be shocked to see Patrick Reed win this thing? Would you be shocked to see him in contention on Sunday? Absolutely not. And $7,500 is a really good price. Talked a little bit about Finau, just kind of in a no-cut event. Berger ranked pretty well for me again. Here we go. Accurate driver of the golf ball. Really good on par 4s. $6,900 is a steal for a guy who has won on tour this year. Let's just look up Berger real quick. Okay, so here's your win at the St. Jude. What was this? A 5th place at the Shell Houston. It's tough to get a guy who has literally the upside of winning for $6,900 where he actually does fit pretty well with the course metrics. He might be the lowest I would go. Actually, that's not true. Kyle Stanley, I believe, popped up on my... somewhere in my research here. So let's see where we see Kyle Stanley. Here he is. He's actually my 7th ranked golfer. Again, it's a lot about the accuracy. A great approach game, middle of the road on par 4s and birdie or better and bogey avoidance. But the other two are gonna carry him a little bit. So again, I don't know if he's min price $6,300. Is that the cheapest player on the slate? No, $100 more than the cheapest player. But you could make some pretty good lineups if you started with like Stanley and Berger. You could probably make some pretty sick lineups. Just as I'm thinking about this, you could get a couple of the big studs in, which I think is an approach that I'm probably going to take. It'll be a little bit stars and scrubs. Listen, it's gonna be, there's 30 players in the field. You're gonna have 6 of them in your lineup. There's not a lot of places that you can go. I think just getting as many of those studs in as possible is going to be the way to do it. And then as we usually do, we'll wrap up here with just a look at the odds. So if you're new to this, I've got the odds to win on the right-hand side along with the salary. So these should usually correlate a little bit. The most expensive player should be the player with the best odds to win and so forth. We see that there's a little bit of value on Jon Rahm, who is 9-1 to win, but he's actually cheaper than... actually, that doesn't make any sense, does it? Oh, yeah, sorry. He has better odds to win, and he's cheaper than Justin Thomas and Jason Day, which is pretty good. And then you see Justin Rose and Paul Casey probably better priced than Hideki Matsuyama. Other than that, pretty straightforward. You can see Finau, Hoffman, and Berger, they all have the same odds to win, but Berger's the least expensive in that group. And then that's probably all I'd be willing to do right there. That's probably it. Kyle Stanley actually in the group with the worst odds to win here at $6,300. $6,300 is kind of interesting. So there you go. That is the final preview of the PGA Tour season. I think you guys are really going to be in for something for what we're going to do next year. I have a lot of pretty cool ideas for tools and ways we can expand this. So I've been working on some things that I'm hoping to unveil for next year. So I hope you guys are looking forward to that. I know that I am. If you have any questions or comments, tweet me. It's at DFS On Demand. I thank you guys for watching all season long. I hope somebody hits it big this week, and we'll get right back at it again in a few weeks when the swing season starts. Talk to you guys soon, and good luck.